Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. More calls for an end to violence against children. The parliamentary opposition calls for comprehensive transport policy. And later in sports, Reggae Boys squad strengthen ahead of Unity Cup final against Nigeria on Saturday. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kerry Simpson. Here are the details. Say no to child abuse, the chant outside the gates of Holland Primary School in St. Elizabeth this morning as students and staff staged a protest. The protest comes 2 weeks after a man was charged for sexually assaulting a 6-year-old girl in the parish and amid mounting reports of similar cases in other parts of the island.
There are so many children in Jamaica that are going missing and so many families that are mourning. Like families send their children to school and they don't come back home safe. They get kidnapped, they get into bushes, they get raped and hanged. And there are so many missing children in Jamaica. So we're here today just to say stop child abuse. Enough is enough.
I feel sad. I feel like I want to cry, although it's not my sister, my family. But it's sad that the children are dying, so we should end this. Enough is enough.
They're also renewing calls for stricter penalties for persons charged with child abuse.
Who is supposed to protect our children are not, and so we have to take a stand. We have to send a clear message to the government and a clear message to everyone out there that child abuse should end.
We are not comfortable with what is happening with our children, and we need to have that village coming back to help to raise the children.
The parliamentary opposition continues to bash the government for poorly managing the JUTC and has called for a comprehensive transport policy to serve commuters. During his sectoral presentation, Michael Phillips also gave insight into proposed plans if there's a future PNP administration. Here's Andrea Chisholm.
The JUTC is in the worst state of history, losing almost $100 billion under this administration.
Opposition spokesman on transport, Michael Phillips, on the JUTC. The JUTC's operating loss is projected at $13 billion while receiving a subsidy of $11 billion from government.
Passengers carried in 2016, 63 million passengers. In 2024, 18 million passengers. Daily bus run out, 450 daily. In 2024, 203.
And so, Mr. Phillips is calling for a comprehensive national transport policy to better serve commuters. If his party forms the next government, that policy would include a workable franchise system to include taxi operators.
Establish a zonal franchise model where operators apply to serve specific corridors. Prioritize routes underserved by the JUTC. Not what was offered by the minister recently. Offer exclusive rights to operate on designated routes within franchise agreements, giving operators security and predictability.
Mr. Phillips is also pushing for a centralized digital taxi registry under the Transport Authority so that passengers can verify driver information and route data. Operators should also get tax breaks and fuel concessions.
We will launch a national taxi modernization grant and loan facility in collaboration with the DBJ and private lenders. This facility will offer low-interest loans and partial grants to taxi operators who join the franchise system and commit to upgrade their vehicles.
Meanwhile, the government has announced that a steering committee is being set up to oversee the development of a national ride-hailing policy. For Mr. Phillips, certain key elements are required in the regulatory framework.
That includes mandatory background checks for all drivers, certification and licensing requirements for ride-sharing companies, clear guidelines for data sharing between ride-sharing companies and law enforcement agencies, public awareness campaigns to educate citizens on safe usage of ride-sharing services.
Andrea Chisholm, TVJ News.
Opposition spokesman on mining and energy Philip Paulwell continues to criticize the government's recent GCT reprieve for the Jamaica Public Service Company, JPS. He claims the move is a political ploy to sway voters ahead of the upcoming general elections.
I believe the issue of GCT on electricity is really a three-card trick, because those persons who were using electricity up to 150 kilowatt hours, they weren't paying GCT. We had removed GCT from their payments. Today, it is now applicable. And while the government has given a temporary reprieve, we believe that is just because of the elections. Right after the elections, if they were to win, then GCT is back on for the majority of poor people.
Regarding Petrojam, Mr. Paulwell also expressed concern about the government's handling of the oil agreement signed with Trinidad and Tobago.
Even with that deal last year, Petrojam lost a lot of money. For the first time in many years, Petrojam suffered a massive loss in its operations. We have to, well, firstly, the government has not settled what it's going to do with Petrojam. So there has been a lot of decisions that ought to have been taken to enable Petrojam to have a firm grasp as to the future, to promote more deals like the one that they did with Trinidad. And that is not happening.
The Jamaica Social Investment Fund, through its Rural Economic Development Initiative Ready To project, is pumping $100 million for the Ministry of Agriculture's Agribusiness Investment Forum, slated for September this year. Jamila Maitland reports.
The Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining has launched the 2025 Jamaica Agribusiness Investment Forum website.
Are you an investor? Are you a startup? Are you a producer, a farmer, supermarket, restaurant, hospitality industry, exporter? Are you a financier, importer, grant funding organization, cold storage and logistics provider?
The forum, which is scheduled for September 17 to 19 in St. James, seeks to connect those in the agricultural sector. Agriculture Minister Floyd Green says it will present new opportunities to transform the sector and ultimately build resilience.
People will be able to leave the forum with an investment package. People will be able to sign on to our SPAD or to Essex Valley and be able to start their processing, to be able to start their production. That is what we're going for.
The Jamaica Social Investment Fund, JSIF, announced $100 million towards the forum.
We are pleased to commit funding support of approximately $100 million under the Ready To Marketing Development Support sub-project.
As it relates to whether the funding will be available to farmers or those in the sector, neither the JSIF nor the ministry could say. The Ready To project seeks to improve access between local and international markets and bolster growth in the agricultural sector. Emphasis, however, is being placed on the website that, according to the ministry, acts as an initial gateway for networking to begin.
This exclusive online matchmaking tool will be available once you register on the platform to forum participants. And this will help connect persons even before you arrive at the event.
Jamila Maitland, TVJ News.
Citizens in Roland Field in St. Thomas say they are not prepared for the 2025 hurricane season. The Atlantic hurricane season starts Sunday, June 1. President of the Roland Field Farms Group, Clarence Thompson, says residents are concerned about the condition of the roads and are seeking assistance from their elected representatives to address the issues before it worsens.
This is a very dire situation, and if we don't get some immediate help for the Roland Field Road, not just here so, But as you can travel, when you're traversing coming up, you could see that almost 80% of what you look at.
Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tofton says he is pleased with the progress of the refurbishing of health centers across the island. He says the aim is to move visitations from hospitals to health centers. Now, following a tour of several health centers in St. Thomas, Mr. Tofton said the program is in keeping with the ministry's push towards the renewal of primary health care.
You may recall that last year we tabled in the Parliament.
And Dr. Tofton says with the growth of St. Thomas, both at the primary and the secondary level in healthcare, the health ministry is doing its part to serve the parish. Mixed reactions from some leaders from the African continent to Ibrahim Traore's leadership. Traore has emerged as a polarizing figure for his removal of Western influence from his country, Burkina Faso. Dwayne Anderson is in China and picks up this report.
The Friendly City Conference concluded here in Shandong, China today. And today's activities really revolved around a lot of signatures on agreements between the officials here in the province as well as their counterparts in parts of Africa. Now, this coincided with ongoing discussions about one particular African leader, Ibrahim Traore. Now, I asked a lot of African leaders what they thought about his leadership at this time.
Currently, he's an amazing leader, and we know that he's doing a great job, especially changing the Africa. The way the Africa is changing and sustaining, especially in food security area, on the security and the peace. He's the model, currently is the model, and the way we can change the Africa, and the Africa ruled by the Africa, problem Africa solved by the African. He's a role model.
You think he's trying to do too much right now, or you think are you in support of what he's doing? Like, you know, he's doing a lot of reform in agriculture, education, yes. And essentially he's chasing the French out of his country. Yeah. What do you make of that?
Well, you know, to be precise, you know, to move this world forward, we need to be friends globally. We need to be connected. You know, connected in terms of, you know, economy, you know, in terms of maybe, you know, mining, agriculture, and other, you know, cultural and traditional way of life.
He's very bold enough, with special confidence and realizing his dream in a way. He just shortly come to power, just serve his people, fearless.
Do you think he's going about it too fast, or you think it's the perfect timing? What do you think?
I hope so. He's very excellent in taking the opportunity of coming to power, helping the nation. And as far as he wins the heart of the people, he can just stay long in power and changing the life of his people.
Reporting from Shandong in China, Washi, Dwayne Anderson for TVJ News.
Thanks, Dwayne. It's now time for a break. Stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. It's now time for the Business Minute. The net profits of separate group of companies tumbled from $1.2 billion during the first quarter of last year to $850 million for the first quarter of this year. And this was despite a 32% spike in its revenues to $37.7 billion. The company's CEO, Richard Pandui, says the steep fall in its net profits was due to heavy investments in infrastructure and human capital, which must be done before revenues and profits can be generated. The company's chief financial officer, Damian Dodd, also says a significant portion of these investments were made in its pharmaceutical division, which has not yet flowed to its bottom line or net profits. Further afield, The White House praised a federal appeals court decision to pause a lower court ruling that blocked the bulk of President Trump's global tariffs. On Wednesday, the U.S. Court of International Trade ruled Trump did not have the authority to impose many of the sweeping tariffs in the manner that he did. The Trump administration immediately appealed. The appeals court stayed the ruling, temporarily restoring Trump's ability to impose tariffs using the emergency powers he declared earlier this year. Both sides must now give the appeals court written arguments on the question of the blocking of the tariffs. And that's it for the Business Minute. Time now for the top stories from around the world.
In the region, the Cayman Islands Ombudsman has launched a formal investigation into the Cayman Islands Detention Center CIDC after receiving multiple complaints, including reports of prisoners' injuries and drug use. The probe aims to assess safety and administrative issues. Ombudsman Sharon Ralston cited public interest and serious incident as reasons for the expanded inquiry. The police are cooperating and findings will be shared with RCIPS, with final results being presented to Parliament. On the international scene, a federal court initially blocked most of President Trump's tariffs, ruling he lacked authority to impose them as he did. However, a federal appeal court quickly paused that decision, temporarily restoring Trump's ability to enforce the tariffs under emergency powers. Both sides will now submit to written arguments to the appeals court. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Antonia Atkinson.
And we head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report.